Hey everyone, welcome to Wealth Redefined. I'm your host, Michael Reynolds, certified financial planner and owner of Elevation Financial. And thanks for joining me today. I'm glad you are here as always. Today we are talking about BOI, beneficial ownership information. This applies to you if you're a small business owner, most likely. So pay attention for sure to this one. Starting January 1st, 2024, there's a new requirement for LLCs and most small businesses to report beneficial ownership information to FinCEN, which is the Financial Crimes Enforcement Network. So the reason I want you to pay attention to this is because ignoring this requirement could have some pretty significant consequences, including substantial fines, possibly even imprisonment. So I don't mean to sound scary and dramatic, but it is fairly scary and dramatic if you don't comply. So I want all small business owners to pay attention to this very carefully. So, if you own an LLC or a corporation, which includes S Corps, there's a good chance you need to file a BOI report. And again, if you fail to file, the penalties can be pretty significant. So let's dig in and talk it over today. So first, let's start with what is beneficial ownership information, or BOI. BOI refers to the data about the true owners of a business. So what this is really intended to do is to prevent malicious individuals from using companies as a facade for illegal activities. So another way of saying it is mainly designed to strengthen national security tools by identifying shell companies that might be used for illicit activity. You've probably heard about shell companies being used to kind of obscure the ownership of businesses. That's really what it's designed to kind of address. So this falls under the jurisdiction of FinCEN, which is the Financial Crimes Enforcement Network, which is a division of the U.S. Treasury. So let's talk about the filing system and what to do. So FinCEN launched BOI e-filing on January 1st, and this is designed to facilitate the new reporting requirement. This new website is designed to streamline the submission of the beneficial ownership information report. So it's designed to be able to do everything online, everything digitally, fairly straightforward. And here are the deadlines. So the reporting deadlines depend on when you formed your business entity. So companies created or registered before January 1st, 2024 have to file by January 1st, 2025. So if your business existed before January 1st, 2024, you've got a whole year to file. Now, I wouldn't delay, but you do have some time. Companies registered in 2024 have 90 days to file after notice of registration. So if you launched a business, this month in January 2024 or anytime in 2024, you've got 90 days to fill out your BOI report. If you're registered after January 1st, 2025, you have 30 days to file. So as time goes on, as we get into 2025, the window of time to file becomes much shorter. So be aware of this if you're launching a business this year or next year. You want to get that filed on a timely basis. So what happens if you don't file? What are the consequences of non-compliance? So FinCEN is strongly emphasizing the need for accurate reporting, updating, and correcting a BOI. They make a pretty big deal out of this. It's a pretty new requirement, but they're pretty serious about this. If a reporting company fails to submit or update its BOI within the stipulated time frame, there could be significant civil and criminal penalties. It is worth noting, though, that errors and omissions rectified within 90 days of the original reporting deadline might not attract penalties. So there might be some grace period, but again, I wouldn't push it. So what are the penalties for violating BOI reporting requirements? So this comes from the Corporate Transparency Act. This is direct from their website. Civil penalties can reach up to $500 per day for ongoing violations. Criminal penalties include up to 2 years in prison and fines of up to $10,000. So violations can include failing to file a BOI report, submitting false information, or not updating reported information. So according to this documentation, they're pretty serious about this. The fines and the potential prison time is pretty significant. It's a little bit much, I would say, in my opinion. It's a lot to be aware of. It's pretty significant penalties for violation. So that's why it's really important to make sure you file your BOI report. So I'm trying to make sure all small business owners know about this so that you can take care of it. So there is a compliance guide that FinCEN has provided. It's called the FinCEN Small Entity Compliance Guide. That was issued September 18th of 2023. And it talks more about the consequences of non-reporting in detail, et cetera. So take a look at that. So you're probably asking by now, how do you actually get this done? You're probably, sweating like, oh, how do I do this? It's pretty easy, luckily. So how do you file a report? The first step is to create a FinCEN ID. So there are links in the blog post version of this podcast episode. I link to everything in there, but I'll go ahead and tell you the URL as well. So the URL is fincenid.fincen.gov, and that's where you would go to create your FinCEN ID. Once you've created your FinCEN ID, you can file a BOI report on the FinCEN site, and that is at boiefiling.fincen.gov. But again, it's probably easier if you just go to the blog post version of this episode, which is 208, and there are links in the article directly to these pages where you create your FinCEN ID and then file the BOI report. So once you do that, you can file everything online, and it should be fairly straightforward. So who needs to report? Does everybody? So most business entities are required to report. There are certain exemptions, though. The requirement includes all beneficial owners, which is defined as individuals who own or control at least 25% of the company or have substantial control over it. So there's a few exceptions to the requirement. So these particular entities are exempt and they wouldn't need to file. So public companies already subject to public reporting requirements under the Securities Exchange Act of 1934 are generally exempt from BOI reporting requirements. Also, certain financial institutions, banks, credit unions, insurance companies, and certain investment funds are typically exempt. So if you want a full list of companies that are exempt, there's a full list of exemptions on the FinCEN website. Again, that's linked from the blog post version of this podcast episode as well. So go grab that. Also, sole proprietorships. Sole proprietorships are not considered separate legal entities from their owners, and therefore they're not subject to BOI reporting requirements. So if you've never filed an LLC and you're simply operating as a sole proprietorship, then you are not required to file. So with that, there are some important links I've also included in the article version of this episode. There's a frequently asked questions link in there that gives you more detail about some of the questions you might have and just general overview stuff. So I in this case, I'd recommend looking at the article version for all those links and the walkthrough of how to file. So just wrapping up, I just want to say, if you're a small business owner, this is pretty important. I want to make sure you're aware of this. I want to make sure you get this filed. So you want to make sure that you comply with the deadlines and get the filing done to avoid potential penalties. So if you have any questions about this, definitely reach out. I'm happy to answer questions, happy to kind of guide you in the right direction, but you are the one that has to do this filing. It has to be done by you, the owner of the business. So keep that in mind and get that done. So with that, please feel free to reach out. Again, this is new. It's important. Not many people know about it. It's kind of fresh, new requirement. So tell all your friends that are small business owners as well, and feel free to reach out with questions if you have any. All right. With that, thanks for joining me today. As always, appreciate you being a listener. Have a great day. See you next time.